when it just puts a taunt in the way, let alone a 2/2
like,
for every spell that you can't, becomes an absolute nightmare. But even then, Weapon Rogue has the ability to just, paralytic poison it down most of the time in scenarios.
I think that's one of the problems, isn't it, with Weapon Rogue, and why we've not seen it maybe, is that it doesn't feel as flexible in Specialist. Because, what do you swap in to make you be able to swing and ignore taunts more? There's not a lot, but let's dive into this one, Sol, because fireworks are about to happen here. Double Incanter's Flow for Mr. Thijs on top, and RDU has 1 Incanter's Flow and the refreshing Spring Water.
It's so ridiculous, right? I don't know how this keeps happening. You're not supposed to be able to hit this that consistently. Every single game that we saw yesterday had Incanter's Flow in it in the early game somewhere. Most of them in the opening hand, and a lot of the time 2 of them in the opening hand, right? Zim, even in defeat in the previous series, had them every game as well. And the only reason Yala didn't is because he wasn't hard mulliganing for them. He was relying more on refreshing Spring Water and Deck of Lunacy and that kind of stuff, right? And then we move into our next series, and it's just flow versus double flow again. European Grandmasters is becoming a statistical anomaly in terms of Incanter's Flow in Mage games.
At least we're learning why, half of them are bringing Mage. If they can draw like this, right? The only thing that would have made this game the best is RDU obviously visually responded to Thijs having double flow, is if then RDU's draw off the top was the second flow, and it's okay, let's play a game of Hearthstone. I gotta see a relatively bland Creme session from Thijs. Oh, do it, Thijs. Do it just to get the reaction from RDU.
There's no card draw though. That's the problem. This is far from the best card he could have discovered from Runed Orb, but it is also by far the best card of those 3 being offered, right? So it's the correct pick out of what he was offered, but it's not as nutty as it might seem. Arcane Intellect, Refreshing Spring Water, those were the 2 absolute nuts in that spot. But he will certainly take a 3rd Incanter's Flow. Yeah,
and RDU, even though he's only 1-3 in terms of flows here, he does have the Spring Water into Apexis Blast this turn, which is very strong, has his choice of minions for spell damage. And in this position, with only Arcane Intellect, I really like this Thalnos pick, because I view Thalnos, it's spell damage, it's card draw for me. That's how I view it. So it's just an extra card to cycle deeper into your deck.
Love this attack as well from RDU. Small details, but I do really like it. It makes Combustion an easier target, but if there was going to be some kind of Combustion clear, it was likely to be Devolving Missiles Combustion or Brain Freeze Combustion or something, right? Which would have dealt with the mini-mage anyway. Plus, we're now getting into the point of the game where Ring Toss can come down, and if Ring Toss can come down, Ice Barrier can come down, and then attacking with minions becomes irrelevant. So he's cashing out this 3 damage, 1 to play around potential removal this turn, and 2 to play around the threat of Ice Barrier coming down later. I think a lot of people would have just tried to greed out that spell damage for as long as they possibly could.
And that's it. There's the Knowledge of Shooting Star in the list as well, right? Which is a big deal. So yeah, we do see this cleaned up. So RDU effectively gained 3 damage that I think a lot of general Hearthstone players wouldn't have this game. So he's already 3 damage ahead. But Thijs, of course, is struggling. And the problem is...
Oh, come on!
with his hand size. And the problem is, if he goes Ring Toss for a rigged fair game, RDU will ping him in the face before he lets that go off. He will just lose 2 mana return, right? Because he knows in this kind of position, it's the only way Thijs is going to get back into the game is if he draws cards. Which will, of course, lead Thijs to probably not choose a rigged fair game, but just wanted to point out the reasons.
Job done. The reasons.
Oh, well. Does he have to start Fireball here? Or Ring Toss, to go into a counter spell? Just so he can Runed Orb into card draw? Oh!
Yeah. He's going to wait as well because obviously if he plays it here, there's nothing particularly impactful that he can do right now anyway. And if he plays it here, then Netherwind Portal can activate on the other side, right? And he has no answer possible. So he'd just be taking, on average, 3 or 4 damage on the other side. So I think it's smart to hold on to it here. And he can now use something else to deal with another counterspell, right? Say he just picks up Spring Water on the next turn. He can then use Runed Orb to proc like second Ring Toss counterspell that comes down this turn.
Do you just banking the damage? Does have the option of Lunacy, but this is not a game you need Lunacy in. This is a game you want to just kill your opponent. Thijs, not on many cards at all. Shake of the head shows that that's not card draw. But again,
Look at your board. Come on, I know you're miles ahead, but let's continue to do the little things correctly. Come on. Combustion positioning for those playing along at home. He has a 1-1 in the middle of his board, which is the worst place to have a 1-1.
Yeah. He would have basically gained a 1-1, right? Because the 1-2 would have lived. If he positioned it right.
Yeah, I think best place is for the 1-1 to go on the left so that it then also doesn't spawn next to the Netherwind portal minion that would come out here. Whereas, of course, if you put the Blood Mage on the right, it would then be next to the Netherwind minion.
Knew it all along. This defended his 1-3. Oh, big deal here for RDU, though. That refreshing Spring Water just means he can dig even deeper. Is he actually just combustion his 1-3 here? Is he afraid of counterspell?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can just play minions, right?
I just wondered, like, what if it, like, because he knows there's a minion, what if it was, like, weirdly entity? Is that something to be afraid of? You know what I mean, though? Because he doesn't need combustion. This 1-3, it could be Ice Barrier. Doesn't need to attack with the 1-3. He can combustion refreshing. Mask looks fine to me. You could argue he doesn't need it, but what other things does he need, right? Like, he's not like he can play it on a card draw.
It's going to devolve to defend the board he has, which is fine. You could argue that, you know, devolve to go along with your masks on the following turn in case more stats get developed, but he's defending his own stats in play, right? So in that case, he can use those to clear board, he can use those to go face.
The old 1-mana refreshing Spring Water, so he fireballs first just to get maximum mana.
Yep. I mean, he's going for lethal, right? Like, that's the out. Genuinely. Genuinely, that's the out. Okay, Font of Power. Apexis, I think Apexis Blast should have come out first there, yeah, for the Mozaki out. I still think Apexis Blast should have come out first here.
It's tough, though, right? Because Font could have also got Mozaki. So then, is it kind of the same?
But even if you play the Font and get Mozaki, you're going to put Mozaki on the board, and you're still going to use Apexis Blast at some point in the turn, right? So why not just play it first?
Works against me.
Alright, finds a Flame Strike, clears up with the Water Ellie now.
And has a relatively high health minion as well to add, right? Like 3/6. Not bad.
And now there is the slight punish, I suppose, for the devolving missiles being used. Can he get there? Shooting Star. Not good enough, I don't think.
One fireball in the deck.
Just goes Blast Face, Spring Water.
Yeah, Spring Water into Fireball, right?
Fireball costs 3 though, which now makes it slightly too expensive.
So now probably diverts onto Ring Toss, I guess?
Or Stars and Combustion for the clear. Could also work.
True.
I wonder.
Even with Ring Toss, Thijs does have that Evolving Missiles to just proc a counterspell for free to open up the Apexis Blast.
Ice Barrier, if I would imagine if it's offered, is taken. Yep, Ice Barrier and Counterspell being picked up there. You're around 80% to hit a given secret, so as long as he hits that 80%, he can just ignore the minions, which is fairly safe in that spot, and get that additional protection against Counterspell. But now Thijs gets to go again! Mozaki!
Oh, close!
Yeah.
The 5-drop! Ethereal Conjure is not too bad either. Not for this turn now,
All right,
I imagine,
nice.
but...
What you
Well,
got?
Fireball
It's there.
1!
It's there. That is Fireball number 1. Blood Mage Thanos is a card draw. He can Fireball, Blood Mage, ping his own Blood Mage, Apexis Blast, lethal.
Well, Blood Mage, Fireball, ping his own down.
I mean, sure, yeah, it doesn't actually matter, I don't think, but yeah, that is technically the right way of doing it. You are correct. I suppose this way, if it's not Ice Barrier, he also wins the game. So yeah, it does matter in some worlds. Oh!
Against me.
Thijs, attack, face, concede. That's about all you've got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, friend. Oh, good effort, though. Good effort.
Unforgiving struggle.
Your counter
See,
spell
RDU.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
RDU just fully clenched right now, waiting for the turn to pass back to him, and he does get it, and he just hasn't changed expression yet. RDU, you've won the game, friend. It's okay.
Yeah, he has like double star combustion.
Should have more than enough to clear
Yeah,
this
to
up
just-
and end the
just
game
bring
with
it
the mask, right? Even without attacking into a potential ice barrier.
I think the problem he's thinking about is, does he need to attack into a minion? And if so, if that is Oasis?
Oasis ally. Oh, you're
Yeah,
spot
then-
on. Yeah, that's a good point.
This is actually so funny.
There's 5 cards remaining, and one of them is a fireball. So there is the card draw route as well. It's always lethal, right? He can Arcane Intellect. If he doesn't hit the fireball, he can just dump more cards and then attack his guy into a minion.
Never
Right?
mind.
And then, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's
it's
now,
always
'cause
lethal.
yeah. I think the thing there is, as RDU takes the game, of course, is starting with draw feels always correct, because the second it's counterspell, Netherwind, whatever, you just know straight away, right? That unlocks the whole turn anyway, because you just win at that point. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. But because the minion was on board, drawing first solved a lot of problems, or at least answered a lot of questions. But wow, Thijs looked like he opened incredibly well. Your point about the discover of the third Incantus Flow was very, very real and displayed here, where yes, 3 Incantus Flows is very, very good, but without the card draw to back it up, it's just often not good enough. But even with that drawback, Thijs so nearly got there.
Yeah, and on reflection, I actually liked his first turn. You know, when I was like ranting about Apexis Blast first, I actually kind of liked the way he went about doing it. I think he had a little bit more game in like staying in it for a turn or two than I thought he did, where I was like really tunneled on just trying to make a miracle happen that one turn. So I think Thijs was sensible to do something just a little bit more responsible that turn. And then obviously he got very, very close on the following turn with the other Refreshing Spring Water. And I think there were, when the turn passed back to RDU, I think there were like minor things. Because even then, if the Fireball was the exact last card, then he potentially didn't get there, right? So I think attacking with the stealth minion first, even if it was Oasis ally, you can then pick up, for example, like 0 mana Devolving Missiles, 0 mana Brain Freeze.
Right.
Still have the out where you clear the board with the Shooting Stars, the Devolving Missiles, the Brain Freeze, and then still have the mana left to mask and get 4 shots to face, even if Fireball was your absolute last card. So definitely some little like optimizations. Like this matchup is super hard and super finicky when it comes down to real late game scenarios though, and it's almost impossible to get it all right. And RDU found lethal, which in the end is all that matters, and RDU also found Incanter's Flow in his opening hand, which is once again all that matters.
Diving back in Incanter's Flow with Refreshing Spring Water waiting. It's going to be very, very strong here for RDU. Thijs, on the other hand, has a much less friendly looking hand there for him here. Does have Thanos as an extra card draw, but I think he's going to be very much relying on that Apexis Blast.
He does have a very friendly looking companion in the background though, Raven. Does that count for anything?
That is very true. Counts for something, but not enough.
Okay. All these scrubby full cost Hearthstone cards coming out of Thijs' deck right now.
Imagine paying full cost.
Ridiculous.
You guys need to get discount cards for Hearthstone. So he's going to go for Phoenix, get the ring toss active, and that is really going to mess with Thijs' turn.
Weird. Those are the 3 bad ones in this scenario.
Yeah, Oasis?
I like Mirror, honestly.
What, just to be like kind of floating annoying secret?
Yeah, well, they both kind of do the same thing, right? Mirror Entity and Oasis, they'll both just kind of be a floating annoying secret that, you know, Thijs will play around everything before he finds out what it is, because it's actually not possible for him to activate either of those right now. But I just think Mirror Entity probably has a little bit more upside. The chart, like, minion combat doesn't happen in this matchup, right? Even if both players have minions at the start of the turn, the player whose turn it is going to shoot, like, Brain Freeze or Shooting Star or Combustion at the minions and then go face with their minions, right? That's what they're going to do. So I think Oasis Ally never really activates in the matchup, whereas Mirror Entity, if this exact scenario, right, like Font of Power into reasonable-sized mid-range minion came down, I just feel like that has slightly more upside potential.
Well, Thijs did sacrifice the Font of Power into the counterspell. Does mean he gets that Incanter's Flow live eventually, a little bit late, but still does have that water in hand, the Apexis Blast to follow up with. But really, kind of awkward that Thijs has drawn so many of his high-costed cards, you know, before the Incanter's Flow.
Yep. Got anything to do this turn? Okay. I was going to suggest... That's literally what I was going to say, yeah. If there was nothing else to do this turn, I know obviously it's sacrifices with the Phoenix waking up next turn, but he also needs hand space, right? And that actually gets cards out of his hand, which is why I'm a little bit suspect about even casting Font of Power that turn, because he wants to play Cram Session next turn. You know, luckily he does get at least 1 cheap playable minion that he can throw out, but if you got 3 clunky cards there, his ability to go like Cram Session into Spring Water and so on next turn is greatly diminished by having these 2 little garbage minions in his hand.
Yeah. Has the ability to coin out Lab Partner as well, which is going to be really nice. Counterspell gets procced once again. This is that awkward situation. That, yeah, Thijs plays a spell now, okay, he's going to proc probably Netherwind, he's expecting at least, and that's what it will be. But at least he can do this, and now Apexis Blast, which is a huge, huge deal. If he just had Apexis Blast this turn, it could have looked a little bit dicey.
Absolute Battle Lord on the other side, Raven. That is a beast of a Netherwind Portal minion. Do you know, like, the amount of Mage I've played and the amount of Mage I've played against, I don't think I've ever seen this come off Netherwind Portal before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when you tell me you've only played 6 games of Mage.
I'm like,
Mage. Fair enough. Yeah, sounds reasonable, actually.
Alright. Go time. Miracle turn. Let's do it.
Oh, it says explode!
Yeah, he has to coin, right?
Yes, he's already in trouble just because of that 1 extra minion he has in hand. But that 1 minion would just be the Font of Power card at this point, so it wouldn't really make that much difference. But he would have 1 card less if he'd have gone Coin Mask, as I was suggesting, potentially. And yeah, this is the problem, right? It was never about the first Cram Session. It's the second Cram Session that you can draw, followed by the Spring Water that you can draw, followed by the AI that you can draw, and so on and so forth. I do like the turn before my Phoenix wakes up, I generally try and make as much hand space preemptively as I can.
And the problem as well is he's only 1 flow in, right? So
yeah,
it's not like he can just dump everything for almost no mana, because it's a big reduction, but it is only 1 mana, it's not 2.
Yeah, agreed. Doesn't matter too much though, he still gets to cash out very nicely with the Fireball that he picked up, which will do the job just fine.
I also play Mask of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Let's get to drop the 1/3 now, which is nice.
Drop the Glacier Racer. You say Glacier or Glacier up north? What do you do?
I say Glacier, but you said Glacier yesterday, so I don't like the way you're flipping.
I think I said glacial, like meaning slow, but I don't know why I said
glacial?
it like that. I think it is, yeah. I don't know why I said it like that. It just sort of came out wrong. But you are right. I did say that. I noticed it at the time and went, ugh, what's wrong with me?
My powers are never truly.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not great, but it's still something.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly enough, like, we can see, of course, RDU has the Apexis Blast, but he only really has the Apexis Blast, right? So without that, might actually be in trouble.
Yeah. There was a hope. If Thijs was one more flow deep, there was a hope that he could go. He got that Egg-Win, and then he goes Cram Session into 2-mana Springwater, right? And then maybe he could do something on the following turn. But yeah, he was just 1 mana off being able to do anything too impactful there. And that's going to be a much more akin to Week 4 Hearthstone Grandmasters Europe Series there. Raven as RDU takes the rapid 2-0 with as many incanters flow. Gives the smirk, messages GG.
I want to know what he's
to
turned
Thijs.
to Thijs. GG number 2 G2 player.
I believe now they need a rubber match because I think Thijs is 1-0 up over RDU in European Grandmasters so far.
Yeah, I think he beat him last time, right?
I believe in like a semi-final he picked up the win over him before, so RDU squared it up, and we'll look forward to the rubber match somewhere in the future. But yeah, very, very clean performance from RDU, and I'm sure he'll be back to Battlegrounds any minute now.
Yeah, but to be fair as well to Thijs, not a bad week, right? He made it